One of the requests coming out of a couple of the committees to have just a kind of a generalized question and answer session, what BBU can do for you guys. We're certainly always looking for guidance, and we're always here with a great staff to try and answer any questions or fix any problems. Hopefully everyone's been able to take advantage of some of the small sessions to sit down with Donna to go through the registry system, the online side of it, if you had questions or needed something to refresh your memory a little bit about. So we've made those available. I hope you could take advantage of them. And of course, they're always there to help from a call standpoint. So without any further ado, I'll go ahead and let each one of them introduce themselves, and then we'll really kind of open it up to questions you may have. Going through their introductions, they'll kind of tell you a little bit of what they cover, what they work on, and then we'll go straight into questions. So we'll start with you, Lance.
All right, I'm Lance Bauer, Director of Breed Improvement and Western Field Representative. So I work with the performance programs, work with our guys that create our EPDs and work on our EPDs. Work on that, work a little bit with Melissa, who is now doing our DNA. So that's what I do, cover the western half of the U.S. as well. Do some international work too.
My name is Geraldine Novak, and I'm the communications coordinator at BBU. Mostly work communications and doing marketing, advertising. I also pull sale data for the sale catalogs for the sale managers, and anything that really has to do with communication, social media, photography, video, advertisements, anything like that. And that's what I do. A little bit of registrations here and there, transfers. So I can answer most questions about registrations as long as it's not like embryo stuff and DNA. I usually defer to these two. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell for me.
Hi, I'm Donna Henderson, and I do pretty much everything, but but not what they do. They make my job so much easier with them taking on the marketing and the pulling for the sale extracts and things of that nature. Geraldine's a great asset in the office, as is Lance, covering EPD questions and things like that. I tell the breeders I can read EPDs all day long. I cannot explain them to you because I depend on the little calculation that comes in the system. I've been with BBU 25 years, and I try to answer as many questions as I can from breeders. We do have where breeders, every phone call is Donna available? So they do kind of field the calls for me. We have very capable people on our staff. Brandy's come a long way. She's been with us, and she is a treasure. I told Colin we need to have a Halo Award for Brandy. And pretty much, we just try to answer the questions that you have. We do have times that we're busier than others, and we apologize for that. The great asset that we've had in the last few years is that we now have an answering machine where we can return calls. So never hesitate to leave us a call, because otherwise we don't know who to call back. So other than that.
And I'm Colin Osborne, of course, the Executive Vice President, and my job's really easy because I have a fantastic staff to work with. With Donna's history and knowledge of the breed, it really helps to get things off and running on the right foot and to correct those problems that we run into along the way. So I'm very happy with the staff that we have. They're very dedicated and very hardworking on y'all's behalf. So with that, we will get started. We will open it up to questions, and we'll try to be prepared to answer just about any question that you have. So who wants to be first? There is a microphone right up front.
Do you have plans to replace the person that was handling the international marketing?
Yes, we are looking with the staff restructure a little bit there. Make sure that we have everything covered in the right manner, from our junior program to our membership, and to help facilitate the international side of things as well. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I like the idea of keeping the certificates online, just for changes and things of that nature. But when I need to send stuff to a sale, I have to order it and do things like that. Is there any way that I can say I want this certificate to be shipped for this sale to this person online so that I don't have to worry about doing a lot of paperwork? I'm trying to figure out how we can get paperless.
Okay, that is a very good question, and it is manageable, but it takes communication between the office and yourself and understanding how the system works. So when you hold the paper for online transfer, if you're consigning it to a sale, you're the only one that can transfer that animal online. If it's going to a sale and Mike needs to transfer that animal, or Anthony or Bruce needs to transfer that animal, you have to have that hard copy printed and sent to them. So what you're saying is you hold it for online transfer and all of a sudden you decide, well, I'm gonna put that one in the sale. You're gonna go in under, and we'll walk you through it if you call us, you're gonna go in under My Herd, and you're gonna find your held papers for transfer or print. You simply tick the print, and if you don't call us or whatever the next day, it's gonna tell us, hey, there's a paper breeder requested release, so we're gonna send it to you. If you communicate to us and you email us and say, hey, I just released a paper online, but I need it sent to Bruce Robbins, we'll go ahead and print that out for you the next day, and we'll say, okay, they wanted this one sent to Bruce Robbins, so we'll print that paper and send it to Bruce Robbins for you. If you don't email me till 3 days later and we've already mailed it out to you, we can't do anything about that. You're going to have to send that to Bruce Robbins. So it is the matter and the timing of the communication between the office and the staff. Okay? Anytime you want to transfer, if you want to transfer that held paper, it's going to give you that option to transfer. You're always going to have a number, and you're going, well, look, this person I sold it to is not a BBU member. If they've never bought cattle before or they're not a BBU member, then you call the office or email the office for a number. We give it to you. You're still going to do it online. People email me all the time and say, look, I've got this held. Can you transfer it to Colin Osborne this, at this address? No, ma'am, I can't, but you can. That is your bill of sale. That's your signature. Your login is your signature to release it, where I don't have to have a bill of sale for it. That is your bill of sale when you're logging in, okay, your credentials.
So is there a way that instead of having to call or to make sure that the timing is right, is there a way to put a commentary when you're releasing that paperwork to say, I want this sent to so-and-so?
We do not. We thought at first when it had notes on there that any notes you'd make on that animal we'd be able to see, and any notes that we'd make you'd be able to see, but that's not the case. On the office side, when we make notes, only the office login can see those notes. When you make notes on yours, like if you go in at night and you say you want to keep your cattle records in there and you make notes, bred to this one on this date or whatever, or AI to this one on this date, you're the only one that's going to see those notes. Nobody else can see them. So we really don't have a way to communicate that other than emailing us and telling us, I just released this paper and this is where I need it sent. So the email and the correspondence, and if you tell me, I am so bad about replying to email, usually I'll just go and do what it says and I won't reply to you, so you're going, well, did you get it or not? If you tell me, please reply and let me know you got this and that you're sending it to Bruce or you're sending it to Anthony or Mike, and that way I'll respond to you and I'll go take care of that paper at that moment. Other than that, I wish there was a more direct way that we could see when we're printing it out that it needs to go there, but we really don't have that.
Yeah, at this time, the system only recognizes a true transfer, not really any other movement of certificate, so we have to have either a non-member number or a membership number to transfer those into, and that's why at the bottom of that there's a little blank. You can submit information for those non-members that may not be in our system yet, or that you don't know if they have any information in our system yet because they're not listed. So we can utilize that to get that information in. But in terms of being able to transfer it or move it to one of those other guys, it has to be facilitated through either a call or an email. Timing-wise, that all happens the next day. So if you complete a transfer online, it's going to be batched that next morning and go out automatically. So know that. That's the first thing they do when they come back in the office typically is go through our print run from the previous day for anything that was done online, and that's all batched and printed and then gets loaded up into the mail ready to go. So from a timing standpoint, make sure you do that. following that up, when registrations are completed online, I know you've probably seen a lot of the messages out there. We don't know you're finished until you let us know you're finished. So make sure if you're registering online and you're expecting those to go out tomorrow because you finished them last night, make sure you send an email as soon as you finish, or drop a call, whatever you need to do just to let the office know, hey, I'm finished, charge the card, or use the credit, or send me a bill, whatever it is, and we'll facilitate it from there. Yes, sir, Larry?
So when I register, I do not check the hold for online transfer or whatever, and I get all my hard copies.
That's correct.
For your hard copies, don't check that box.
That's right.
Correct.
Then you don't get into that. You've got your hard copies at home, which is also your bill of sale, you send it back.
But once you get the hard copy, you have to send in the paper for a transfer. You cannot transfer online, so just keep that in mind.
Right. I've got them, and I don't have to go back to you and ask you to do it.
Correct. If you're
And-
participating in sales, we're still, all the sale management still wants that hard copy because they know it's there, and it's ready to be transferred.
And they have to have it
So-
for the transfer. The other thing is, it's not only for online transfer that you might hold that animal. If you know you're having them scanned in 2 weeks, and you know it'll take about 10 days to 2 weeks for us to get the scan data back, and you want that scan data on the paper, hold it for online transfer. Once you're notified that that scan data has been uploaded, then go in and release your papers, and that way it will print with the scan data on there. So there's ways that you can use that hold for online transfer to different ways. Sending in weights and measures, I'm going to weigh them next week or whatever. If you've got a reason to hold them until then, and then go in and release them. But you can't call and tell us to release them again, because that's your credentials you're logging in with. That's you releasing those papers, okay? So just remember that.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. I ate some animals, and the cows were born and all that, and I sent them to be cyber verified, the plans, and they already came back now. When I go back to register them, will the certificates say that they are already cyber verified and everything?
Yes, the certificates will say they're SIRE verified, and then if it's between runs, then they'll get genomic enhanced EPDs on the next run, but the certificates will say SIRE verified and have a DNA case number on them.
And we get that question a lot. Why do I not have the genomic enhanced EPD logo? So even though they've been sire verified or parent verified or whatever kind of verification we can get, sire, dam, or parent, until that data goes through the next genetic evaluation, you won't get that logo because those aren't genomically enhanced EPDs at that point. Boy, I know there's got to be more questions than that.
You also have an option when they do the genetic runs. Lance will usually, and Geraldine will usually communicate that to you, that the genetic run has been uploaded, the fall genetic run, the spring genetic run. And numbers will change ever so slightly, or maybe, quite a bit, depending on what's been entered and what we're going with. You have an option in your logon, if you're going to breeder logon, there is reports, and the top report is a certificate report. You can go in there and print out a white copy to put behind your original to show what that's changed. So if you've got sellers coming to look at them, or you're comparing yours to see what you want to consign to a sale, or what you're going to put as your top sire or whatever that year, you can go in and look at those new numbers once they tell you they're updated, because that copy is going to print out the most current data from BBU. Okay, so just remember that you have that option also to go look at that animal as it is in the system today.
But also keep in mind, when you log into your system, it's only going to show animals that you currently own. Because a lot of people run into that they sold the animal. They're the breeder, but they sold the animal. That animal isn't going to show up online on your system in your login anymore. So you won't be able to pull a copy certificate on that. But we can send that to you via email through the office.
Or you can just go view it on the...
Yeah, or you can view the animal search, the public animal search through that also, without logging in.
Sir.
On that electronic, where you can go to my herd, like my bulls, And man, I've got bulls that probably been dead 15 years that I never sold, that were probably steers, but they're still on there. But it takes forever to delete those. You think we'll ever have a click, 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 delete all those at one time? Because I start trying
Sure.
to do that, and after about 3, I'm like,
I'm done, yeah. No,
you gotta give a date.
Yes.
You gotta give a why they died or whatever. And I mean, I'm talking about some that I've had 2005.
sure, no doubt. And so we can look into that and see what the programmer can possibly do. My thought would be that it would look something similar to like an inventory-based program, IBR, WHR, where it's basically just listing. You'll still have to give us a date and a disposal code for those, but you could probably put it all in those lines, just like whole herd, and then hit submit or something like that. So we'll look into that and see what we can find to maybe facilitate that rather than doing it one at a time. Yes, ma'am.
You have had discussions on the size of the print on the report.
Yes.
That are difficult to read.
Yes, they are.
And a massive amount of data. And I would like to see a report that is summarized with important data or selected data. The other thing, when I go on the computer, and whatever browser I use, if I pull up an animal, the print is so small.
You can tell your browser to make the zoom in on your browser. We can't change it, but you can zoom in on your browser. It's a setting in the top right-hand corner, zoom in, and that'll make your font bigger depending on what browser you're using, so.
Yeah, the report, though, we do, especially when we get to like scan reports, where all that data is populated. It's little bitty. There is a summary page, and I don't know how many people are familiar with that summary page that's there, that kind of has everything broke out in growth traits and ultrasound traits. I know it's still small, but that's what we have currently available in terms of a summary page. But we'll look to see what we can do, because that if you think back before we were at ILR2, if I remember those reports coming out of the second previous system, were kind of in the same format, and they were fairly small, but that definitely needs to be a little bit bigger so that it's a little more legible.
If I pull
So.
up an animal, and I print that animal, you still can't read it.
Correct. No, it's tiny. I agree. I think I have pretty good eyes. I don't have to wear glasses yet. It's coming, but it's still, you really have to look real close to be able to read that. So certainly understand.
Is there something you can do?
We don't. It'll have to go through our programmer. I know we've asked about it, but we are asking a whole bunch of questions on the front end, and it's probably been one of those that's gotten overlooked, so we'll go back and ask again to see if there's a way we can increase that and still keep it in a manageable line where, we don't have 25 pages for 25 animals, but have it presentable where it's usable too. Yes, sir.
Is it possible when you're in your land user, you register your calves, where it's got color, and you don't have a code, like with sires, if you put a bunch of them in the drop down that list your sires that you're currently using, put on the color where it's like, one's red, it's black, so on and so forth. Is that a possibility?
Something we'd have to talk to the programmer about.
Well, he told us no.
Yeah,
He told us
I think
Pretty
we
quick.
asked real
We
quick
asked.
on that.
We have,
We would like that one
The
too.
thing is with our breed, we have so many different color variations that it would be impossible to create. You would have, because we have dark red, we've got model
Mottled face,
underline,
mottle
model
underline,
underline.
white face, dark
So
face.
it's like these
Yeah.
combinations are like, so, we asked and he said
Get
no.
more accurate registration.
Yeah.
If she's red, you forget about the white belly or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Make it a multicolored drop-down for each one. I'm a developer, right? So it's just a matter of, you got a partial code for this, a partial code for that, and it's all you have to do is just say, okay, it's a plus or minus, it's a deer, dark red, it's not difficult, it's doable, it's very good.
Yeah, some of those things, and I certainly understand, we've had them there, and when we first had the program, that's kind of the direction that he went, but it was way off base, because one then was dependent upon the other, and he never really, grasped it, the way we felt it should work, but we also buy into a platform, and it is Beefmaster specific, but the generalized platform flows across a lot of different breeds, and there's a few of these things. I don't know that this one is one, but there are a few things that take a change to the entire platform, so those are a bit more cumbersome for us to get done. But we can revisit it and see if we can get that. If I remember right, what ended up happening was it didn't order right. So if we got red, then it was looking for something else. It was not kind of an if-then the next color, but there were some challenges with that. I know we couldn't get it to click right with him, and so that's a challenge. I'll tell you, talking programmer language and talking to programmers is a huge challenge. So we'll continue to work. We're a little over a year in. I'm sorry? All right. Well, we may call on you sometime then. There's no doubt about that. So, but we'll look and see if that's something that works. I know one big drop down won't because of the number of combinations. So.
Colin, you just go to those you go to your forms.
Correct.
And click on the old registration form, and it's still on there.
Yes.
On the back. Print that out, and have it sitting right beside you.
Yeah, there's a codes reference page too that has all the different codes on it that you can use. It's a very handy tool in lieu of, but I do understand that we all think of things in terms of true colors like red, white face, motley underline, or light red, motley face underline, and we're trying to get you to put in codes. But that's where we are today. Maybe we can get that changed in the future, but it will take a series of different options that are there. So, Amber?
Can you tell us a little bit about the whole herd reporting? I just learned that it doesn't matter your herd size. It could even be a little cheaper to register cattle for calves.
So, don't go ahead.
Oh.
You're fine.
Well, the whole herd reporting is, like you said, it really doesn't matter. We have people that have 5 headed cattle, 2 head of cattle that are involved in it, and people that have 300 head. It doesn't matter. It does save you money in the long run, but you're required to update your inventory every spring. The deadline for that is May 1st every spring. But the thing is you pay up front for all dams that are left on your inventory for that year. Essentially, what we're trying to do is get you to update your inventory and remove those dams that won't be producing a calf that year. And you're only paying for dams that remain on your inventory and will produce a calf that year. And the fee right now is $20 a head. And that basically gets you a free, her first calf for that year is free registration, and then the calf's registration up to 24 months is free.
Transfer.
30 months.
Yes.
Oh, transfer up to 30 months is free on her calf. Now, keep in mind, if you do a lot of embryo work and things like that, her next if you have an embryo donor or anything like that, the calves after her first calf, you pay the $20 again for each calf. But it still is cheaper than doing regular registration because that's $30, the cheapest option. But basically, you're paying up front for all of that. So rather than at the time that you're registering the calf. And we do, remind me, we do require weaning.
Disposal code or weaning weights?
Disposal code or weaning weight.
Codes and, yes, disposal codes and weaning weights on those animals. So that's another thing. But we encourage members to do whole herd because it keeps our system clean as far as getting those old animals off your inventory and also getting more data for our system for EPD runs and genetic evaluations and things like that. And then it saves you money. But you just have to make sure to keep your records, and that's all done online now. It's all, we used to mail out a hard copy inventory, but now you log into your breeder online login before May 1st and update your inventory there. And there is a how-to video online how to do that. This was our first year, it was completely online, so there was a lot of people that went in and did their inventory, but they didn't post it. So you have to make sure, even though you save it, you have to hit post inventory, because that generates the fees on our system. And if you don't hit post inventory and then you come back and you try to register calves, it's going to give you that error, dam not enrolled in WHR, because you never posted the inventory and never enrolled that dam. So, does that answer your question?
Geraldine talked a lot about keeping all that clean. And really, from my side, it's all about the data, bringing that data in, because you're required to submit those weaning weights, put a performance number on every calf, whether or not you're going to register it or not. Put that performance number in the weaning weight, and it goes back to what I talked about yesterday on Megan's slides about reporting all your data, because if you report all your data, and then you can see the true comparison, the true standard, or the true deviations within those contemporary groups. If we look back to what I presented yesterday, and those slides will be available, we had that big group that had that huge range of almost 200 pounds in weaning weight, and when we did our cull and didn't report those, we had 3 animals that in the entire contemporary group were above average, but then when we culled, they became below average. And if we only report those, then we bias our data. And with the new EPDs coming out as well, this longevity or stayability EPD that we've got coming out is actually kind of unique in the industry, because it is taking into account the disposal codes that you record in your WHR. A lot of the stayabilities throughout the industry are just, okay, did she make it in the herd till 6 years? Okay, good. With this, we do some data manipulation based on why she was culled. And so it's all of this really goes into helping make our data the best and prove us as the maternal breed.
Any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to hope that I'm not the only one that is intimidated by going in and registering animals. We're just beginning that. We have to call Donna, and she's very nice, and she walks us through every step of the way. But I guess my concern is, if I do that and if I have an error in there, is all of it correctable, or do I need to keep calling Donna?
Yeah, we can correct anything in the system, you know. So, and by saying that, regardless of how bad something may look, the worst thing that can happen is we delete it and start over. So you can't tear anything up, you can't break anything. If something gets reported wrong, it's all correctable. Yes, ma'am.
And you are limited on your side as to what you can change, just because it affects so many other things. You can change your horn status, you can change your color after it has a C number, but those are the only 2 things. If you say, doggone, I forgot to put a name on it, because a lot of people miss that name that's down under disposal code. Why put it down there, I don't know. But they call me and I say, well, what's the name you want on there? So I'll type it on there before we ever print out the papers, and then you're good to go. There's just some things that we have to change. And when it has a C number on it, you're not going to be able to change anything hardly, other than those 2 things I mentioned.
You personally, we can change it in the system and reissue a new certificate. A lot of people will not realize their mistake till they get the certificate 2 days before the sale. And then, but we can make the change in our system, so when the new owner gets the certificate, the correct information will be on that certificate. So it's, like she said earlier, it's just communication, letting us know the mistakes or things that have to be changed, and we can change it on our end. And Donna is inundated with probably thousands of emails every day, so don't, like I said, like she said earlier, you know, if you want to reply, a confirmation, let her know. But there's also, but between myself and Brandy and her, we can all make those changes, so you can email any three of us, and we're happy to help do that. So just communicate with us, and we'll make it work.
And I should reply back to all of them, but just putting that on there, please let me know you got this. That way I will. That'll trigger me to, okay, let me make the reply before I forget, so.
And if it's a performance data change, like you entered 5,400 pounds for a wean-in weight instead of 540, email me. I can change that and take a little bit off of their plate. So if it's something on the performance data side, let me know. So like I said, if you entered 5,400 pounds instead of 540, just send me an email and say, Lance, can you please change cert number XYZ to 540 pounds instead of 5,400 pounds.
And that's a good point. The certificate number, that's how we find animals in the system. P number or C number. If you send us an ID number, a name, we gotta hunt and peck and find that animal. So if you have a C number or a P number, that is very helpful in the email to include, just because it helps us find that animal like that. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Because removing catalog inventory is so cumbersome, and I have tried to do it, and I have simply given up. And it was so simple when you did print out the reader's inventory. Would you consider that, to do that again one time, just to clean up your database and our inventory?
Sure. And I'm sure we will. Periodically, we'll send out inventories to everybody so we can try to get those cleaned up. And by no means am I saying everybody has to be on whole herd, but that's the beauty of whole herd in general, is it keeps our database accurate and current to what's there. And I know we've gone through some changes, and that's become a little more cumbersome from some of those that do routinely clean everything up. We still take the certificate. So if you've got a stack of certificates that you set aside that they've been called and you want to send those in, get them out of your hair, whatever, send them to us. We still can go through those just like we can a paper inventory. But we'll certainly look at that and see if we can get a printable copy and get it back out, because it's something we do. We know there's some that are still going to send in paper copy of everything, and we'll certainly just give everybody the opportunity to continue to clean up that manner as well.
And to piggyback off of that, with whole herd reporting, I said it's completely online. We do have the option to mail you a paper WHR inventory, but you have to personally request it. We're not going to automatically send it to you. So there is that option, and then you just mail it back to us, and we do it on our end through the office. So if you just are banging your head on the desk and can't figure it out, there is options. So,
Mr. Hans.
Of the two DNA companies we do business with now, how are y'all going to decide which one to select?
So the board has actually already made a decision to make GeneSeek our preferred partner, just because of the timing of everything. We have access to their LIM system, which we can plug in different sires and make changes and corrections and verify parentage right there. They have a lower cost product in terms of the ULD than what Zoetis offers, and they're more responsive to us. So that's who we're going to be partnering with. If you're with Zoetis and you've always been with Zoetis, we will still recognize them. We'll have to send you the order forms. I think that order form will probably come off our webpage. We have a lot of data that's there, so we still have to have them out there. And they still will be someone we work with, I know. But we are starting to transition over to GeneSeek Neogen.
And like Colin said, with Neogen, we have access to limbs, and so when you call me or you call Melissa actually now and say, I sent you a set of animals and I neither of the two sires I gave you qualified, can you test this sire as well? She can get into limbs and go directly in there, and it takes a minute to run, and we can pop that up. With Zoetis, we have to email them back and say, hey.
And wait.
And hope we get a response.
Mr. Carr?
Now that all the proposed bylaw amendments have passed, what are the final parameters of the animal ID prefixes and how and when will they be established?
So the parameters are already there, they're established. And if you don't know what Mr. Carr is talking about, it was the bylaw, the second bylaw, or excuse me, the first bylaw that was on your proxy, and it's referred to as an animal ID prefix. Each and every member out there is going to get a form, just like you get with the proxies or anything else. Those are going to go out with membership renewals. I know lifetime members don't have to renew, but you're going to get a form by itself. You're going to have to sign up for that animal ID prefix. And we say animal ID prefix, we're talking about that animal's name. So I'm going to pick on Judy. L2, I would assume may be the one that they request, and that's going to pre-populate that prefix, L2, followed by that animal's ID number. So you don't have to put a name in if you don't want to, but that is going to be that animal's name. And then if you want to change the name, you can take the ID off or leave it. That's up to you. That prefix will always stay with that animal, so that L2 recognition follows that animal throughout its life and wherever it is. So that's what we're looking at. As far as parameters, you have 8 spaces. Now that is characters or spaces. So if you put C space R space O for Colin Ray Osborne, that's going to be 5 characters. So you'd only have 3 more spaces available to you. So keep in mind that those spaces are there. Yes, and it does have to be a minimum of 2, so it can't just be I or U or C or anything along those lines. As far as how those are going to be issued, we're going to send that. You're going to have to send it back to us, okay? If you don't send it back to us, I have no idea what you're going to want, and until it comes time to start registering calves, then there's going to be a big red flag that goes up. It will be, if you don't request something, it's probably going to be just a random something that comes up. For Colin Osborne, it may be COB, which is Colin Osborne Beefmaster, something that would kind of identify, but it cannot be duplicated. So if there's 4 requests for L2 that come in, we're going to look at history on those animals. And if Fred and Judy have been using L2 for the last 50 years and those animal names, and the next person's only been there for 5 years, they're going to have the rights to it. We're going to contact you back and say, L2's been established already, it's in use here, you're going to have to request another, give us another option there. So that's kind of how we're going to look at those and go through them. If something has not been established and we get 4 that come in, we're going to look at tenure of membership. That's the only way we knew to handle that. So if someone, it's not membership status. So if there's a lifetime member that's been there for 1 year, but there's another member that's been there for 30 years and they make the same request, that longer term member is going to have access to it. So those are the general parameters that we're looking at in animal ID prefix. Is the minimum. Because we only have 30 characters for a name. So if we go above that, you can still name up to 30 characters, but your prefix can only be up to 8. Those will go out right here. As soon as we get back, we'll get those forms and they'll go out. Usually send out membership renewals around the end of November, 1st of December. So that's about the timing that those will go out. Yes, ma'am?
Letters and numbers?
Letters and numbers, no characters. Letters, numbers, and spaces. Yes, sir, Larry.
Kind of on the same line, can you walk through a buyer's responsibility and a seller's responsibility if somebody wants to change the name of an animal and the cost?
Do it.
You handle most of those, so I'll let you do that.
Okay, generally, when it comes in, if it has a name, I don't care if it's CF 362/9 or if it's, CF Penelope. If it has anything in that name space, that has a name, okay? If you want to change it, it requires going back to the original owner to get permission to do that, and most of them will email me who's paying that bill before we update it. On the ones without progeny, it's a $20 name change. And it requires the permission. What Ms. Restrepo will do is email me and say, we'd like to change the name to this on this animal. Okay, this is the breeder you need to contact, and she'll ask me the email address, I'll give it, she'll copy me on it. It'll be communication between all of us. That original paper has to be returned for the update. There's a $10 reprint fee, but in order to keep that paper up to date with what the office records show or the official records show, we have to have that back. On whose responsibility is it, the buyer or the seller? That's strictly between y'all. There is a fee there. Who's going to pay it and how it's going to be done, and the contact of the original owner to get permission, that's up to you that's requesting that name change. And then when it comes in, like I said, we just need to know who to bill for it so that we'll have it taken care of.
Yeah, well, my deal, I had somebody say, hey, I want to change the name, you need to tell BBU, and then I thought, well, I'm just going to send Donna a random email saying, hey, somebody wants to change it, you know, we need some names and cert numbers.
Let me give you a life in the office, a day in the life of the office staff. So I get this email from Larry, and he says that Colin sent in this, he sent him a request to change the name on double L 56/2. Okay, and please allow him to do so. I say it's okay. Okay, 56/2 double L, I can't find it here because it's 56-2, not 56/2. Again, our hunting and pecking to find this animal. So without all that information, and without knowing what he wants to name it, I've got Larry's permission. It's here in my email. 3 weeks later, I get something from Colin that says, I bought an animal from Larry. I want to name it this. He said he gave you permission. I had to go back and find all through Larry's emails and find out which animal he's talking about. So the way that I described that Anna Restrepo does is she sends it to me and tells me this certificate number, this was a lot number in this sale, we bought it, we want to change the name. Who do I contact? I give her the contact person, she copies me on the email to them, they reply all, it comes back to me and them. I say, okay, Miss Anna, we've got this, I print out the permission on the email, I put it aside, and I'm waiting for Ms. Restrepo. I email her back and I say, just remember, I need the original certificate, let me know that you've communicated through email to change this and that you're paying the fee. So all of that comes in together. Otherwise, I've got to go back and piece it together, and it may be an email that was sent 2 days ago, 4 weeks ago. All of this has to come together. So that's what we're looking at, and it does get kind of confusing. So help us, help you. So that's what we need.
So any requests that come in from that standpoint, if you can always include at least the animal number and at least the ownership name, then we can start doing a little bit more. We do require those in writing, either hard copy or email works, just so we have record. Like I say, since that's a permission that's given, we staple it to the work order and those get filed. So just remember to include that information at the very least. And the reply all button is a really good in that manner. We'll send you the email, send it to them, copy Donna on there, and just ask them to reply all. We get that back, and in that same email chain, we've got the membership name at least and the animal certificate number. So, yes, sir, John?
Just for an example, just the registration papers, the original registration papers, if, like, per se, a book that has those registration papers was in a vehicle that had a wreck, and those papers essentially got destroyed, is there a way of getting another registration paper, because those original registration papers, the original registration papers are gone, they're destroyed. They could not be retrieved again. Is there a way of getting those without having to send back the other original registration papers without a problem?
Anytime you don't have the original registration papers been destroyed or, lost or whatever, that's where that affidavit for loss certificate comes in. There's a $10 reprint fee, but if you've lost a paper, it has like 8 lines at the top. You give me a certificate number, 2 certificate numbers, 3, however many you need to replace. Those animals have to be in your name for you to sign on that affidavit saying that they were lost. For $10 a piece, we reissue them. Okay? It's the same way if you've lost a paper and you sold the animal, but you can't find the paper to transfer it. Normally what you do is fill out the back of that certificate, send it in with the appropriate transfer fee, to our office. Well, I can't do that because it's lost. So you're going to do the affidavit for lost certificate. Now, either you can do that and we mail you back the original, then you fill it out and send it back to us, or you can bypass that step, send us the affidavit along with a Beefmaster bill of sale made out to your buyer. We've got the original in the form of an affidavit, that's $10. Your bill of sale allows us to transfer it to a new owner, and you pay that fee. We mail it out back to you, the seller, or to the buyer, according to how you mark that bill of sale, and we're good to go.
At what age do females roll up to your whole herd reporting status? I know like weaned heads don't, but then when they're 2 or 30 months.
So it's 18 months of age. If they're not 18 months of age when we run that inventory, they are not going to automatically print on your inventory. That gets them basically to about almost 28 months before, 30 months before we require to have any calves, before we require them to be on there.
Now, should your younger ones have a calf before the end of that year, let's say she's a good producer or whatever she produces early, all that's going to happen is you're a member of whole herd, you're trying to register this calf out of that young first-time heifer. All that's going to happen is it's going to bill you $20 when you go to register the calf because you were a member of whole herd during 2019 when she wasn't expected to calve. We would rather give you the benefit. If we collect the $20 you put her on up front and she never does, she doesn't have her calf till January or February of that next year, we're not refunding your money. We'd rather you keep your money when you go to register the calf, then we collect that due. Okay?
I guess Jeremy said a minute ago, like, if you calve them young like that, they miss the window when it comes in. You go to buy register, get it down. You know, it's not on the whole herd at the time. You gotta go, I call and have you added.
Right. And once we add her in, we go, okay, go try it again. That's the beauty of the system. When we make an update there, you call and tell us it's telling me she's not on a whole herd. Yeah, she was only 17 months on January the 1st. That's why she wasn't, because she had to be 18 months or whatever the case was. We tell you, okay, we added her in, we billed you the $20, go try her again. You go try it and it updates just like that, so.
Yeah, any producer has to come ahead and say, if it's 2 years old, you can come back in, click her, and update and post.
Yeah, if you
The additions, I think we have.
the additions we have to do.
After you
So
post-
after you submit.
What was Jeremy talking about?
So if you want to add them individually on the front end, so let's say March has rolled by, you've already palpated, and you've got coming 2-year-olds that are going to calve in 2020, this next year. You know they're going to calve, you're planning to keep them, and you want to go ahead and add those 10 females on. You can individually add those at that time and hit post.
But after you hit post, you cannot make any changes.
Then
So
we have to make
we
changes.
have to do it on our end. So that's where it comes into. After you've posted your inventory online, you can't make any changes, so make sure it's correct.
But post it first. If you have those, like you said, the first calf heifers, if you know they're going to have them by the end of that year and we need to add them to your inventory, post your inventory like it is and then call me. We found out the hard way last year. Let's say Justin had one that he knew was going to calve for Jones, and he knew it was going to calve, so he said, I need to add her onto my WHR. Can you go ahead and add her in? So we go and add her in individually like we do. His whole 2019 inventory disappeared. So I had to get the programmer to go put it back in. It's a programming issue, but we found out the hard way if we do it that. So his best bet is to go post that inventory, then tell me these females weren't on it first time, first calf heifers. I know that they're going to have a calf before the end. Can you go ahead and add them in so when I'm going to register, I don't have to call BBU and say she's not on the inventory? Sure, I can do that for you. So, but if I do it ahead of time, it's going to delete your whole inventory and think that's the only one for 2019.
Yeah. And the same situation is for if you purchase an animal after you're a whole herd member and then you purchase an animal at a sale, she's obviously not going to be on your whole herd report for that year. So when you go to try to register her calf, you're going to get that error that says, damn, not enrolled, because you're a whole herd member. Same situation, we have to add her on the back end. So just call and email us her certificate number, and then we can enroll her. And you'll just pay the $20 at that time.
But tell us what year the calf was born so we don't just have to
Yes.
assume. So, because somebody
Yes.
might be registering a 2018 calf that they hadn't got to yet. So let us know, for this year, I need her added on. I'm trying to register a calf.
And then when you transfer the papers, if the member's already in whole herd and utilizing that program where it automatically uploads to your system? Or would you not do that because if they bought it in November, you would be told $20 charge?
So that's what we would run into. We're still going to have to manually bill those somewhere along the way, just simply because it's the function of being able to keep up with billing on whole herd. And if they just automatically go in, then that means they're going to automatically be billed. And if they're not calving until a later date, or they lose a calf, or the calf dies at birth, then you're going to be out.
Back to those, talk about those changes that you can make in the horn status and
Color?
Can you do that from any of your cattle that are in inventory that you purchased?
Yes, sir. Once they're in your inventory, all members can make changes now for horn status or color. And those are, once they get a C number, those are really the only changes that you can make. Now, if it's a P number or performance only calf, you can make any and all changes up until you request that C number. So that's one of the reasons we suggest, either as you're calving or as soon as you finish calving for that season or that month, go register all those calves as P numbers. Get them in the system, and then you can make all the changes you want to from there. You know, if one you thought was going to be polled ends up having horns or vice versa, you can make that change all the time. But even if you need to go change a weaning weight, oh, heck, I put 5,400 in instead of 540, or I put the wrong birth date in. P numbers, you can still make those corrections on yourself.
Colin, I had corrected an incorrect weight after I had a certificate of my weaning weight.
You can.
Oh, can you correct? Okay, well, then I misspoke.
It will let you correct the weights and measures when you go into the My Performance and My Weaning list entry. You just have to go there, and the ones that are already recorded are listed there, and then you have spaces to add in the ones that aren't recorded. You can go in and edit the ones that are already recorded. Of course, it's going to recalculate, and it's going to change the numbers. You know, it may or may not change the numbers, I guess I should say, according to how much the change is.
Recalculate, does it on its own?
I
don't think so.
I don't-
So when we talk about recalculate, we're talking about how it affects that contemporary group. And if probably your adjusted measure too, I don't think it automatically will recalculate that for you. We have to go in and hit a calc all to update all that process. I think. I need to double check to see if it changes your
So-
adjusted measure, but I know it won't change the contemporary group rank and
So if we add another
percentage.
2018 and we calculate, I mean, it calculates then, does it calculate their?
Only upon initial entry. I know that. Yeah, so
Okay.
if you add more calves to a group a month later, on initial entry, it's going to recalculate those groups.
So for instance, Ms. Judy, if you made an adjustment or an edit on one that you had entered already, and you might just email me and tell me, hey, Donna, I went in and changed a weaning weight. I found out I put the date backwards. Instead of 5/4, it was 4/5, of 19. Let me know that and what year the calf was born, and then I'll go do a recalculation, and that way it'll be correct that. Just email me and tell me that, and then I'll be able to go and update that, and you'll be good to go forward. So.
Yeah, periodically, and I say periodically, about weekly, we have a calc all button that we hit, and that recalculates the whole system. So if there are any changes, if you've had an animal that had actual accuracy values for EPD, and now all of a sudden they've got an I sitting there, it's probably because something changed, not necessarily on that animal, but maybe something within that contemporary group, or somebody else that owns a progeny has put in information, and we hit that calc all. It's going to run those interim EPDs if there's been a change, so that if you see an I for an accuracy value isn't bad. That just means that there's been some more data come in and it's been recalculated.
So that,
On our yearling weights, it comes from Casey Morrell,
yes, ma'am.
and so we use the weight that he takes.
The scan weight.
But if I input it myself, I have the choice of partial feed or full feed. So what code is used if y'all put it in?
So the code used, when we put it in, comes from Casey. That partial feed or full feed basically differentiates the contemporary group. It doesn't affect adjustments or anything in any way. It just differentiates the contemporary group. So Casey works on a contemporary group and sends us a contemporary group. It doesn't matter.
Any more questions?
One thing I was going to tell them I'm sorry, did we have?
Go ahead, Bub.
I
Go
have
ahead.
a question. The bulls that have been genotyped at Zoetis, are you going to transfer the data over to GeneSeek?
So we will be negotiating that with Neogen GeneSeek. They're going to provide us, or they have told us they would provide us with a certain number of those animals that they will transfer over at no cost to us. For us, about the only way we can apply that is going to be high progeny count, AI sires, donor dams, high impact animals, so that number is probably somewhere around 400 to 500 is kind of the number that we've discussed. So in order to spread that out over the entire membership, that'll mostly be for those high impact animals. If you've got 10 cows that were at Zoetis, and you want to move those over so that you can parent verify to them, we can put those on file for $15. We get a little discounted rate just to get the parentage markers on a SNP platform there so that we can validate parentage. But there is a small fee for basically walking cows, walking bulls out there that aren't high impact animals.
And I was going to say, please communicate to us when you send in DNA. If you're doing this to make this female that you're typing a donor dam, and you send it in and you put HD genotype and we don't go any further, there's no parent verification there, and we know if it's going to be a donor dam, at this point it has to have parent verification and a high density genotype on file. So if you communicate that to us and you haven't marked it, we're going to go, wait a minute, and it may be that we can get back in touch with you instead of waiting 4 to 6 weeks when that lab result comes back. The parent verification wasn't marked or it wasn't at the same lab. We could have communicated that to you when we got the sample, rather than 4 to 6 weeks later you're going, okay, is she set for a donor dam now? Well, no, you had to get parent verification. Here I thought I did all this. I've waited 4 to 6 weeks. We get a lot of frustration from the breeders, and understandably so. But again, you have to help us help you. You have to tell us that's the reason you're sampling, and we can look at it and go, okay, the sire and the dam are not on file at GeneSeek, or the sire and the dam don't have a type on file. We need, you're going to have to send in a sample for this to get this accomplished. And when you do that and you've got the cap in there, and then you go get the dam because we told you 6 weeks later, and you bring it in and she's done and she's sitting there, and they never go and test against, because we had the calf first to go and test parentage. It's just a communication is what we need on that. So it can save you a lot of frustration in the meantime if we know what you're trying to do. So we can tell you up front, okay, you want her a donor dam, she's going to have to be parent verified, but I don't show that the dam has ever been verified. Well, she's dead. Okay, if she's dead, in that case, we need to get the update in the system to show she's dead, and I need to send you a special form that you're going to request that she be exempted from that possibility, from that particular requirement because of this. She was never typed, she's not available anymore. There are options around it, but you have to go through and we have to verify that that's all true. Not just that, well, I sold her. Okay, well, you sold her, call up John Price, and see if he can get you a sample. I don't care who pays for it, you have to let me know, but we need that sample because she's still alive walking around, and we need to get her in compliance with being a donor. If we don't know you're doing it to make her a donor, we can't tell you what, and then you're going 4 to 6 weeks, another 4 to 6 weeks, another 4 to, and it just adds up. And I understand your frustration, but we have to know where you're going so that we can help you get there.
Any other questions? All right, well.
So no phone calls this week, right?
No, we appreciate everybody, and certainly our staff is second to none, I think, out there. They're very good about facilitating each and every one of you when you have trouble. And like they said, communication is the biggest part that gets broken down somewhere, and something gets missed on our end then, and then it leads to a lot of frustration, we know. So let us know what you're looking to do or trying to do, and we'll try to facilitate getting you to where you need to go. So